Cosgroy % $10. Richard Hanania posted an article raising the possibility of a Steve Bannon-Groyper alliance to derail Vance. However, why would we be allies with somebody who works closely with Rebecca Mercer through Breitbart and Cambridge Analytica? Bannon is no better than Trump.
Listen, I've never talked to Steve Bannon, okay? So any discussion of a Bannon-Groyper alliance is premature, okay? Bannon retweeted an article about me on Parler a few weeks ago. We agree on some things about Vance, about Israel. That's really where it is right now, okay? So let's everybody just calm down. Why would, first of all, and I love when people say, why would we? Who the fuck is we? Who's we? We, there's no we here, okay? You are not red-pilled. You were not red-pilled until you watch my show. So let's not, we don't need to be making any decisions. Me needs to be making decisions about the political stuff. Now, would a marriage of convenience between us and Bannon to prevent Vance from becoming the nominee, would that be fruitful? Yes. Now, be that as it may, that Bannon and Mercer have worked together in the past, if they're against Vance, good enough for me. Good enough for me. To come together for that limited objective, I'm not closed off to that. But a little premature. We're getting ahead of ourselves. I've never talked to Bannon. I don't know Bannon. I don't know what his opinion is of me. I like a lot of what he's been saying lately. And Hanania is not the only one who said that. But don't give me, why would we? Who's we exactly? I don't know who you are. You're an anonymous person. I don't even know if you're a Groyper. I don't even know if you're a fan of the show. So there will be no we, okay? I am the leader. I am the charismatic leader of this movement. I am the one that called Trump. You are a fucking idiot that probably voted for him. So, you don't be telling me what we're going to do. There's no... if there is something valuable in an alliance like that, then I would consider it. And, that's a conversation for later. But I love all this stuff. People come in, we need to do this, we need to do that. You are not a strategic thinker. You are not in politics. I don't know who you are. So, anyway.
Francesco sent $100.
And Bannon's no better than Trump. You're wrong. Bannon is way better than Trump in a certain sense. Trump is bringing in 600,000 Chinese students. Trump wants to get us in a war with Iran, with Israel. Bannon has been critical of all of that. So, like I said, I don't know the guy. I don't know if I trust the guy. But let's not start drawing lines. What's the goal? It's only I'm isolated. And I'll tell you something. The Groyper's tendency to isolate me from everybody, it's becoming a bit of a problem. I need allies. Not you. You are an anonymous person. If this thing doesn't work out, you go and get to live your life. This is my life. The buck stops with me.
So even though if you're not 100% on board with everything Bannon does, which I'm not either, but at the end of the day, Nick's right. You need some kind of allies. I mean, nobody ever wins a war by themselves, especially when you're going against so many, talking heads who have so much money and, media behind them. Nick's kind of on his own island. And, to be quite frank, the more that he can get out there and make these alliances for the better good. I mean, you don't have to agree with everything, kind of like that interview that he did with Tate. I mean, you don't have to be 100% on board with everything that they, think and say their ideologies, but it's got to be a good majority. I'd say at least like 90%, right? That extra 10%, you guys can agree to disagree. And, further down the line, once you move that goalpost down the line, you get a lot of the things you're trying to accomplish done. Then you can revisit those and hash them out and kind of, stand your ground, dig your heels in, so to speak. But I mean, to be out on an island by yourself, you're never going to get the word out. You're never going to get anything accomplished. And the other side is just too big. You got to start building allies. I'll keep going.
An arrow. I'm the one with gunmen showing up at my house. I'm the one that doesn't have a bank account. So as long as I am responsible, I am the leader. And as long as you are anonymous and have no skin in the game and no stake, and you are a casual viewer, you don't get a say in that. I, as leader of this movement, need allies. Allies can provide valuable things, some public, some private. Guys like Andrew Tate, guys like Alex Jones, maybe Steve Bannon, who knows? But the Groypers making decisions, I don't know why you talk to this guy. Well, there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot you don't know. I put you onto a lot of this stuff. There's a lot you don't know because you're not privy to these private conversations. So on some level, this is not going to be the lunatics running the asylum here. So, and I appreciate the Groypers going to bat for me. I appreciate the Groypers going out and attacking my enemies, but there is a lot of Groypers trying to box me in and telling me we need to be absolutely flexible. The principles don't change, but the political circumstances do. And this boxing me in, if I let the lunatics run the asylum, I couldn't talk to anybody because you could say anything about anybody. You could say a lot of things about a lot of people. And pretty soon I'd have no allies, I'd have no platforms, I'd have no anything. And all this would ever be is me playing the greatest hits to the biggest fans. And that's not progress. What I want to do is move the ball down the field politically. And that means that we reach a mainstream audience. That means we ally up without making compromises. That means that we, meaning me and my allies, have to become more powerful. Power is the game. We want to get power to do the things that we want to do. Otherwise, you're another jagoff with an opinion. Maybe with a big audience, but you're just another jagoff with an opinion. And I can see this happening. I see it already in the comments section. You start to say things like, we don't want to kill everybody and we don't hate these other people. And people say, you're walking back your opinions. That's literally, I did a show yesterday and said, we need to reassure people that we're not hateful and full of resentment, but we actually want to make society better. And people said, why are you selling out? If that's selling out, you have lost the plot. If the constraints are that every show has to be fire and brimstone, pure resentment, rage, always more extreme, always more insane, always more resentful, you don't want change. You just want to feel validation. You want to feel your resentment to be acknowledged and heard. And part of what I do is for that. But if that is not channeled in a productive and prudent way on a long-term timeline, with tangible results, then what the fuck are we doing? Besides stroking our own egos, besides validating our own opinions. I get it. You get it. If you're watching the show, most of you probably agree with me already. I am in the game of empire. I am in the game of building an empire. I'm not satisfied with my large audience of diehard fans. We want the whole country to be on board with us. Yes, the diehards are an important part of the cavalry. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not satisfied with just playing the greatest hits for the most radical 1%. We're trying to move the needle of an entire nation. Don't you understand that? We're trying to move the needle of an entire country. And then once we do that, we're trying to move an aircraft carrier of a power structure. How do we do that? We're going to have to reach a wide variety of people, very intelligent, very elite, very sophisticated, from different backgrounds, not necessarily racial, but from all different walks of life. And it can't always be piss and vinegar. It can't always be raging, veins bulging, and I'm not even that guy. I'm not even doing that for purely tactical reasons. I'm not even that guy. If you're looking for the most psycho, most vengeful, most resentful, one-note lunatics, Blood Tribe is down the hall and to the left. You can go with the psychos and the antisocial freaks. What we're interested in is making the country better. What we're interested in is bringing a coalition together to achieve change within our lifetimes. I'm interested in the art of the possible, not the fantasies of, people that just want to hear their grievances heard. So if all you want to hear is the greatest hits, if all you want to hear is the down with this, down with that, this is a wrong show for you. Some of what we do, we have to talk about the problems. We have to acknowledge where society's gone wrong. We have to analyze it. We have to be brutally honest.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you need allies, like he's saying. And kind of like what I was reiterating before. I mean, you got to be, a good portion of your ideologies need to match up with theirs so that you guys can work in unison. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're just in your own little echo chamber, so to speak, and you're just rattling off ideas to, right wing people that don't want to change anything, they just want to, bitch and complain all the time without any action, then that's all that's ever going to happen is just no action. You have to get mainstream so that those views can be heard, so that you can attract a new audience. You can attract the other people that only hear the other side, the liberal side. And, unfortunately, the liberals own the media, and they only, most of the public only hear that side. And, you got to build allies, or you're just going to be in, like Nick's saying, you're going to be in your own little room, speaking to the 1%, and you're never going to get change. You're never going to get results by doing the same thing. So.
But to be a leader, for people to look to us to lead the nation, it's a different qualification. People are not just looking for you to tell everybody what's wrong with the country. People want to hear, how are we going to fix it? We, unfortunately, our movement has become experts in telling everybody what's wrong, but woefully inadequate at telling people what's right and how we fix it, how we can make people's lives better, how we can move forward. And we need to start. Believe me, in terms of telling people our grievances, we have exercised that muscle to death. Talk about hypertrophy. That is a path that is well traveled. We got it. We can write essays. We can write dissertations on our complaints and our grievances and our resentment and our feelings and how we're angry and what's wrong with society. We could write the magnum opus on that. Tell me what's right, how we're going to fix it. Atrophied, woefully inadequate. We need to water both sides of it. And we need to do that if we expect people to follow. We want to be leaders. We want people to follow. We don't always want to be on the outside shaking our fist, frothing at the mouth, while the actual serious people control the levers. No, we want to be those people. So we're going to need to give the country a little more than just piss and vinegar and resentment. We're going to need to give them vision. Not just anger, but inspiration. And while you might think, I saw somebody on my show said something like, let me pull it up. I got to pull up my channel. I'll read you one of the comments from one of my recent shows. Let's take a look. Somebody commented on the show. They said, let's see, what comment was it? I don't know, but they said something to the extent of like, all these people are fucking scum. Every one of them is fucking scum, or something or other, something like that. And it's like, you're not only alienating the diversity with a statement like that. When you think about the normal people in your lives, do you think that, like, when you say things like, all N-words are scum, well, how do you think, forget even about the black thugs. We're not trying to appeal to them. We're talking about our own people that are well-adjusted, that have lives, that are making TikToks. God bless them. They're out having fun. They're shopping. They're eating food. How do you think that plays with them? How do you think they feel about that? We want to lead everybody. We want to lead all. There needs to be a vast coalition of people that are going to support our ascendancy, not just the most riled up section. So, I'm not interested in just being the angry man on television, impotently, yelling and screaming, nothing but resentment. That's not Christian. That's not good. Okay. Yes, Houston, we have a problem. Yes, we've identified who's doing it. I don't have any, if you watch my show, we're not pulling any punches here. No one can accuse me of that. But I am interested in solving it. I am interested in this country moving forward and for things to actually get better in the real world. Not in fantasy land, not people, exhausting themselves, writing projects and things. How do we actually do it? So anyway, we're going to need, don't get me wrong. We're aggrieved. We have legitimate grievance. We have indignation. We are right to have indignation. But we also need to be so excellent. We need to be so good at what we do, so smart, so clever. We have to be the best. We have to shine for the whole country to follow us. It's not enough to be the angriest guy in the room, the guy that's the most sarcastic, the most cynical, the most sardonic. We have to shine. We have to be absolutely above. So the people don't just look at us as the angry guy, the guy that's taking the easy, low-hanging fruit, but the guy that the actual magnificent, magnanimous, benevolent leader that can take our society and make it great. George Washington was not somebody who's filled with resentment. This was a towering figure before he was a general. You want to live up to your ancestors. You want to defend the West. They weren't talk show hosts. They weren't polemicists. Some of them did polemics, but they were leaders. They were the greatest among us. We have to focus on becoming the greatest among us, being leaders to shine for the whole country to follow, being inspirational as well, truly leading, not antagonizing, not provoking always, not being the most belligerent, not showing the ugliest side, but to truly rise above. And that doesn't mean being soft. That doesn't mean nothing close to it. Nothing could be further from that. It doesn't mean being soft. It doesn't mean being cowardly. It doesn't mean hiding the truth. I'm very clear about what the problem is. But it means rising above the reaction, rising above the reactive, rising above the resentment, the anger, the emotions we're feeling. To take the helm forcefully, assertively, and show by example, inspiring our own people, leading the way into the future. And maybe that sounds like political talk or something, but there's all the difference in the world between what somebody like Trump did and what some of the people on our side do. What did Trump do? Trump is actually the president. Yes, he sold out. Yes, he took money, et cetera, et cetera. But Trump gave people a vision. It wasn't all, yes, he channeled the grievances. Yes, there was some darkness. But he also spoke about the aspirations of the people, our dreams, our future. He also painted a picture. Let's make America great again. Not what necessarily we're against, but what's the positive vision we want to create? How about we could all rally around greatness? Let's build roads and highways and bridges. Let's put tariffs and we'll have industry in America. This is like a positive vision. People can imagine their lives getting tangibly better. So anyway, that's what I'm interested in. And what was the sentiment that somebody said? Oh, they said about Steve Bannon. So, look, what is really the goal? Because if the goal is to have the best talk show ever, yeah, I could give you the best talk show ever. I could pander to your sensibilities. I could tell you what you want to hear. I could give you the flavor you want. And I know the flavor you want. People tell me some of you tell me my best shows are the angriest, the most racist. And some of you guys tell me my best shows are the most analytical, the most inspirational, the most Christian. I know what's going to be the easy road. But I'm not interested in just the talk show. We actually need to not be isolated. We need to have a wide lens, a long-term vision. We need to be mission focused and oriented towards how do we bring the whole country together with us to actually do the things we say we want to do. It's possible. We can achieve remigration. We can achieve sovereignty. We can prosecute all the foreign intelligence, all of the interlopers, transnational syndicate running the country. But in order to do that, you need to have a bigger perspective. It's going to take something special.
Bring roll 69 cent $15. To those who think your authentic speech is a hindrance, learn to be less spurgy about politics and socialize with some tact. Friends, family, and coworkers will be much more receptive if it feels like a natural consequence of pleasant conversation. Meet them where they are. We can all do our part.
Yeah, is it just too much to ask to be normal? Look, when I do the show, I'm animated because it's a performance. It is a show. That's why you watch it, because it's compelling, it's funny, it's provocative. And people say, "Oh, so you're dishonest." It's rhetoric. It's just political oration, okay?
It's great to be, provocative and, you know, bombastic and, a character. But, to Nick's point, at some point you gotta dig your heels in and you have to actually get serious. Being a character for the show is obviously to keep the retention rate and, make it viewable, right? Everybody wants to be entertained, but sometimes you have to hone it in and be serious to be taken seriously, right? You gotta be serious to be taken serious, and that's kind of where he's at now, is trying to take this movement to the next step. And you can't always be a character, right? You can't, that no one's gonna follow the court gesture, the clown, right? Sometimes you gotta sit down and think, how do I get across to this new audience? And that's by being serious, having serious conversations with serious people in networking. If anybody knows anything about growing a business or growing a movement or anything, it's all about networking with the right people. Again, don't sell out your values, you know, because then you're like everyone else. You're like all the other grifters and liberals and the people that we talk about. But at the same sense, you got to network. I'll let them keep going.
It just means you use flourish, you use rhetoric. It's at the end of the day, you want people to listen. It's what it is. I could write in a very scholarly way, and I do sometimes engage in a pure analysis without the flourish, but everybody knows it has its place. But when you're talking to other people, it's just basic stuff. Just listen. Sum it up with talk less, listen more. That's it. And I know that's basic, but when I do a conversation, you know what endears me to people? I just listen to what they say. You'd be surprised how rare that is to be a good listener. Easiest thing, it's passive. All you have to do is not do something, but that's one of the rarest traits, is to just listen to the other person. Listen to what the other person is saying. Shut up, let them talk, and listen to the words they're saying. And don't just wait for your turn to say something. Repeat what they said back to them. Say something thoughtful about what they said. Show them you're listening. Say, oh, it's just like you said. If you watch any of my interviews and debates, pay attention to how many times I say, it's just like you say. It's just like you said earlier. Pay attention. Because that's a subtle cue, that maybe not so subtle, that you're listening. And people love to be heard. So why do people like me? Why do people say, oh, I just can't help but like you? Even if they disagree with me, it's because I listen to them. And I respect them enough to let them talk. I don't interrupt them. I repeat back what they say. I actually say something to show that I respect their opinion. I'm not just dismissing what they say. I deal with what they say. I say the parts I agree with. I say the parts that I disagree with. I tell them why. And that's why people say, I don't really agree with everything, but it was an interesting, because people want to be heard. I remember one time I took an Uber back from the airport. I told the story before, but I had this black Uber driver. He recognized me immediately. He was a militant, like pro-black guy. And he wasn't rude. He was a veteran, well-spoken. You know, he didn't come across as ignorant, but you could tell that he was totally programmed with a lot of the left wing. He was like a 1619 guy. You know what I'm talking about? Ta-Nehisi Coates, NPC type. He was giving me the lecture, and he talked and talked and talked for probably 45 minutes in the car. I didn't get a word in edgewise. But I listened, I nodded, I said, I hear what you're saying. And when we got to my house, he said, you know what? I like you, man. He goes, you're a nice guy. He said, I'm looking at you. You got a nice face. I like you. You're a cool guy. Can we get a picture? I was like, sure. He goes, you know, you don't seem racist. You're all right. I didn't say anything. I just listened. And it didn't matter what our politics were, that I'm white and he's black. I'm a famous racist and he's, super anti-racist or whatever. On a personal level, here's a guy that clearly, he reads a lot. He's interested in the subject matter. He considers himself educated. He's an Uber driver. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's looking for someone. He's looking for a captive audience, and he finally got one. He got a captive audience with a guy with a platform. And that was the moment he'd been waiting for. And I don't say this in a diminutive way, but it was like, oh boy, all this political education I've been doing. Now here's a politically influential guy. I'm going to say my piece. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. I'm going to tell him what I really think. And this is someone who does it for a living. Someone who sort of counts, not just your, average guy in an Uber. And I endeared myself to him just because I listened to what he had to say. And he loved that. And it's like, people are so simple. They're not always easy. People are not easy to deal with. They're very frustrating to deal with. And there's easier said than done. There's a dark side to people as well. And it's not so easy as just listening in a longer relationship. Sometimes you got to push back, right? But people are very simple. They're not easy, but they're simple. Their motivations, their actions, their intentions, unless you're dealing with someone who's like malevolent or super intelligent or sociopath, for the most part, people are pretty simple. And you'd be surprised how many flies you catch with honey rather than vinegar. I know. This is not like a revolutionary idea. But if you're saying, yeah, we get it, I know, but so few people practice it, and yet so few people do it. But you would be so surprised how many friends you can make and how far you can get by just doing the bare minimum. Listen, make eye contact, repeat back what the person said, give them a fucking compliment. Is it that hard?
Yeah, it's really not that hard. People just want to be heard, and what he's talking about, like, you just kind of listen, sit back, let them talk, and repeat it, regurgitate what they're saying. It's actually, it's a smart marketing and communication technique called mirroring. So when you mirror something, you basically listen to the speaker, nod your head, kind of keep eye contact, and then you repeat it back to them. And it's how you build rapport with people. So I'll let them keep going.
Show genuine interest in what they're saying. I know this is how to win friends and influence people. You'd be surprised how few people actually do it. I know it's basic, but so few people do it. And that's just 101. There's a more advanced toolkit if you're looking for it. Yeah, sometimes you need to be aggressive, and sometimes people want to be challenged, and sometimes people want to be, there's advanced technique out there, but this is 101. This is the basics. Everyone should just arm themselves with this. Don't be a fucking blowhard. Don't be an asshole. Don't be coming around being insensitive, and I know people might say, oh, that's rich for you to say. Is it? Because when I talk to liberals, when I talk to people that I disagree with, they like me because I know what they're about. And I tailor my speech accordingly. I start with the joke. I'm self-aware. I make fun of myself. I find an area of agreement. Because it's just basic fucking human decency. Like, hello, is that complicated? So the Groypers would be well suited to just be decent human beings first. And you'd be surprised how you red pill people through osmosis just by being a cool guy.